Live! Hello. Hello. Alright, we're a bit late. Bit late in the day, but we're here. Out. Out. Thank you. Alrighty then. Let's get this show on the road. Oh, that's good. Hey! How you doing, mate? G'day, Billy. How's it going? Another fine day above ground? We are sanding a 16-inch Basilard blade. I've been working on this for a while now, but yeah, unfortunately I had to put it on hold on the lead up to the Perth Knife Makers meet and the Sydney Knife Show. So I've got to get back to it. It's a custom order for a client, so figured you guys could join me in the ever-loving boredom of sanding stuff. And I could answer any, yeah, thanks. And I could answer any questions, do a bit of back and forth like I usually do on my Handsanding Shenanigans videos. Just gonna pull up the live stream because sometimes the chat disappears on my phone faster than I can see it, so I like to pull up the live stream on my computer so that I got the chat in front of me. Yeah, it's been an absolute bitch of a blade to do, but that's life, eh? Okay, that side's been used. You can also see what the delay looks like on the camera, which there's always a delay. Ugh! So far I have approximately about 3.5 hours of hand sanding into this blade. And I've got approximately 3 hours more hand sanding before I'll finish hand sanding this blade. And then I'll go on to mounting the fittings and stuff. Yeah, I mean, blacksmithing and bladesmithing are two very, very different, kind of sections of the metalworking realm. People don't, like people who say, oh, you're a blacksmith, and I say, well, I'm actually a bladesmith, and they get all confused. But, it's important for me to kind of establish the difference between the two, because I spend about 1/10 of the time at the forge that an actual blacksmith does. Of course, if you've seen videos on my channel, then you'll know that I do some blacksmithing too and make hammers and all that kind of stuff. And that's actually been a big part of my business recently, is making hammers for people. But yeah. I am primarily a bladesmith. I spend a lot of time at the grinder and a lot of time doing this. Different strokes for different folks. Yeah, I've heard that one too. Actually, the most common one I get over here is, oh, so you make horseshoes. It annoys the crap out of me. You know, the City Knife Show, they were doing power hammer demonstrations, making hammers and stuff. And the first person that comes up to look at it next to me says, oh, I was just thought it was all horseshoes. Yeah, thanks, man. I do practice my blacksmithing quite a bit. I find that the better I get with a hammer, the less time I spend at the grinder. And moving hot steel is kind of one of my favorite things to do. So, the YouTube channel has been a great way for me to have an outlet for my blacksmithing abilities. And I've actually sold more hammers than blades recently. Mainly because I haven't been making too many blades. I've been so focused on the YouTube channel that I've ended up making more hammers than blades. This will be the first thing to come out of my workshop in a month or so that's been bladed. The rest of it's all been hammers and other tools. Yeah, I was always taught, 5 minutes of the anvil saves you 30 at the grinder, which is often very true. Unfortunately, and I mean, the same is true if I had several higher grit belts, I could save myself a shitload of time doing this. Unfortunately, I don't. And that's purely a money problem. Money is something that I have in very short supply, so I make up for it with time and energy. Which unfortunately means I spend many hours with the tedium of rubbing a piece of sandpaper back and forth over a piece of steel. Yeah, no, you never just make one. Never make just one hammer. I thought I was just going to make one hammer. And now I sell hammers as part of my business. Because hammers are something that everyone needs. And you can't have too many of them. So I found out. I was always a great fan of collecting hammers. Never thought I'd make them. But now I do. I mean, it's funny, the gear that you need for hammer making is actually quite simple, depending on the type of hammer you're making. The reason I started with that Japanese dog's head was because it didn't require any fullering tools, it didn't require any special tools other than a hammer eye punch and a hammer eye drift, which, took me no time at all to make. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the especially awesome part is the ability to make a hammer that suits your physicality, suits your needs perfectly over a store-bought hammer. I mean, a lot of store-bought hammers these days will have higher quality, heat treats and just generally have more uniform makeup, but they'll also tend to not be specifically designed for you or for your customer, and so therefore they tend to be less forgiving when it comes to doing specific work. Whereas when you're making your own hammers or hammers for customers, you can make the hammer specifically for a certain task. Now I've yet to see a decent quality production dog's head. That's one thing that you don't get a lot of. I have made some Sanmai iron and wood. Yeah, I've made a few pieces of billets of Sanmai, and none on my YouTube channel. I plan on doing some of that very soon. Um, a friend of mine who's also been featured on this channel, Flint Sharp Knives, he does a lot of Sanmai, wrought iron especially, because he has very close ties with the local recreational societies who tend to come across a lot of old wrought iron wagon wheels and stuff. So yeah, he does a lot of culinary knives in Sanmai. He's actually gifted me some wrought iron, which I plan on using for some Sanmai. I've just got to work the pieces into usable sections. And yeah, old Nicholson files are perfect. The mild steel can be a bit of a bastard to weld. Yeah, so can be the hot dog in a bun. Hot dog in a bun normally refers to chiseling into a piece of material, chiseling it open, and then putting the high carbon bit in. Sanmai is just 3 layers, right? So san being 3 in Japanese and mai being layers. So you've got 2 layers of something on the outside and 1 layer of high carbon steel on the middle. There are people who do like stainless Sanmai, which has got like 410 or 316 or one of the other martensitic stainlesses on the outside of like a high carbon core, like 52-100, 1095, those kinds of great ones. Or more traditionally, you're talking wrought iron or mild steel. As far as diagonal pins, yes, they're incredibly hard to find. There is a place in Australia, Sydney actually, Evilly Works. They actually make production diagonal pins. They produce en masse diagonal pins, and they're fucking awesome. Of course, they have a 700 weight power hammer, so they can turn one of those out in like one heat. Hell? Okay, what am I looking at? Right. Yeah, so Evilly Works is definitely worth checking out. They also do dogs' heads and stuff like that, and they do them for really good prices because they're producing them so fast. They can charge a lot less than a custom maker like myself can charge. Yeah, no worries, man. I was happy to do it. It was great to get around and kind of introduce a whole bunch of people. Um, I figured I wasn't going to get much out this week because I've been so worked out. I've been so flat out with all the other crap I've been doing, like the Sydney Night Show, that I'd at least share that with my subscribers. And yeah, no, I mean, it was really well received. A lot of people thought it was pretty awesome to have someone going around doing that. So when Perth Knife Show comes to town, I'm going to be having a stall at Perth Knife Show, and I'll probably do a live stream then as well, because it's just a really good way for the word to get out there. If you haven't already, guys, make sure to hit that like button. Every like helps. Odin's Reach. I'll confirm. That'll do. Ben Guts. Sorry, guys. I'm also replying to messages on my Facebook page as I go. Alright. That's interesting. Alright. Cool. So no, I won't be going to the Melbourne Knife Show. I wouldn't have gone to the Sydney Knife Show if it wasn't for the fact that I was sponsored to go there by Jake Mansell at Five Pants Fabrication. For those of you who don't know Jake or Five Pants Fab, I would suggest that you look them up because they sell some pretty awesome gear. But no, Jake sponsored me to go there because he's got a newborn. And so I was there to give him a hand while his wife took care of the 5-week-old baby. But yeah, no, I won't be going to Melbourne. I will be going to Perth, obviously. The Perth Knife Show is just around the road from me, so I will definitely be there. And I'm hoping in the next couple of years I'll get out to Adelaide Knife Show. It's a little bit smaller than, well, it's a lot smaller than Sydney, but it's also an AKG run event rather than a Knife Arts Association, which means that there's a bit more custom knife makers there than production knife makers. I don't know if you noticed in my live stream, but I kind of tended to skip past the production knife tables because honestly I'm not interested. There was a lot of stuff there that wasn't the greatest, and it was also being sold for ridiculous prices. And I'm more about lifting up the custom makers, lifting up the craftsmen rather than the production stuff. And yeah, that's exactly right. It helps the algorithm not so much recognize my videos, but yeah, put them out there. The more likes the video gets, the more widely spread my video is. Yeah, well, like I said, I was more there to help the custom makers get out there. Because I mean, I'm not big time by any means, but any little bit of exposure I can give my fellow makers, because I mean, it helps me too. And the more that the custom makers get recognition, the more likely I am to get recognition. But yeah, the big thing is that at the end of the day, those production companies turn out millions of knives, send them all over the world for ridiculously cheap prices, and then they get their markup. I'd be doing myself no favors to advertise all of the all of the production makers. Unfortunately, I didn't get to all of the custom makers at the show. One of the big problems was I didn't want to intrude on a sale. There were guys like Toby and Adam from Holtz, Toby from Metal Monkey Knives and stuff like that. Yeah. That's it. But yeah, like Toby from Metal Monkey Knives, Adam from Holtz, Peter Bold, Bruce Barnett, Keith Flutter, Shane McIntyre. All those boys were a little bit busy while I was doing my rounds, and unfortunately that was the only time I was going to get around the show. I kind of had to get back to the table to help Jake out, so those guys were all there. They were all talking to customers, so I didn't want to put a... Yeah, for sure, yeah. I didn't want to put myself in the way, because that could cause a problem. Especially seeing as it was my first knife show, and I was unknown to everyone. I was this random dude who Jake Mantell brought over, and who kept dragging around this giant Bowie knife with him. Tried to keep it as low key as I possibly could, as you possibly can with a bloody 10-inch bladed Bowie knife. Yeah, but the other thing, of course, was that I wanted to get around to the smaller makers like myself. Guys like Peter Balds, Shane McIntyre, Bruce Barnett, they're all recognizable names. I have. One of the problems using WD-40 with, especially this silicon carbide stuff, is that it breaks down the glue on the grit, which means that you actually get less life out of your sanding grits. This is just a mixture of water and dish soap, and that works perfectly. When I do my final sanding passes, I'll normally use something like 3-in-1 or Simple Green or some kind of oil, and that's mainly to prevent rusting. But I find with the dish soap, it doesn't rust it as fast as Windex does, because Windex has a little bit of that, a little bit of a more aggressive take on the steel, which means you're more likely to have rust marks on the opposite side of your work, which is really annoying when you're trying to finish the damn thing. So yeah, for when I'm doing this, I either use just Windex or any kind of oil is going to break down the any kind of oil is going to break down the glue in your sanding thing. That's why I said I use 3-in-1, but on the last kind of the final strokes, that means I use it like 1, 2, and then I'm changing out grits because it's just breaking it down. But yeah, Windex is a strong base. It's normally got, I'm trying to remember the chemical component. It's really good for neutralizing ferric chloride when you're etching Damascus. I'll remember in a minute. Ammonia. I think, yeah, ammonia. There you go. Sorry guys, I'm having breakfast while I'm doing this. Yeah, bicarbonate soda is another good one. Bicarb soda does kind of stop the ferric chloride reaction. But Windex is something you can use if you don't have bicarb, which everyone should have bicarb. I use bicarb, but you know. I'm actually having soup, funnily enough. Yeah, it's soup. It's a creamy tomato and herb soup. It's my breakfast. Actually, urine probably would. I wouldn't recommend peeing on your blades though. I mean, I know they used to quench in virgin's blood, but I'm not sure that not sure that you want to quench in pee. I'm kind of interested to know how you know that. What the fudge? This is true. Although I think if you let urine sit over for a while, it kind of turns into an emergency. It turns into ammonia. Ugh, emergency? I was reading. I was reading. uh, I don't know what emergency there would be for you to need to etch Damascus with your urine, but I suppose you're out in the forest. You need to have a good-looking knife. So yeah, whatever works. Actually, one trick I actually picked up from Bruce Barnett while I was at Sydney Knife Show. We were talking about etching Damascus. Now, ferric chloride doesn't give you a lot of contrast; it just gives you a lot of depth. So I was talking to him about contrast because a lot of people use coffee. I've used coffee on my Damascus, that kind of stuff, and I mean, yeah, it works. But he uses caustic soda, which is extremely basic sodium hydroxide, basically. And that darkens it up really nice. And if you go onto Bruce Barnett's website, Barnett Custom Knives, he has some amazing Damascus. He does River of Fire, which is a feather pattern that flows down the blade. Incredible. I was incredibly honored to be able to hold some of his blades and have a look. Ah, fair enough. Don't go etching any blades in your dog's pee. No, Drano is not. Drano is bleach. Although Drano is a brand, so there's a chance that Drano has a version of caustic soda. So it might be worth Googling. Because if Drano do have a version of caustic soda, that would be interesting. Remember to hit that thumbs up button, guys. It does help. Too far? I don't know. Damascus for me has always been kind of a. It's been an interesting thing, but it's also been a kind of why. There's no point. It's only for the aesthetics. So I mean, as far as that goes, no, it hasn't gone too far. At the end of the day, it's all about aesthetics. So therefore, whatever aesthetic fits is your aesthetic. I'm just gonna say aesthetic a lot. But the thing is that at the end of the day, you're talking about a method of pattern making. You're it's kind of like I was watching a wood patterning video last night. It's a Japanese wood patterning thing. Anyway, but the thing is that whatever Damascus pattern you can make is great. But I think the idea of Damascus going too far would be more that everyone is doing Damascus. Like anyone who makes knives these days is doing Damascus, or is trying to do Damascus, or is hoping to do Damascus in the future. It is seen now as the epitome of knife making. Like Damascus steel is the ultimate. And I mean that's spread by the guilds and the societies and stuff like that for knife making as well, because they hold Damascus in such a high regard. And as a testing agent, as a kind of, I can do this with this steel, I can make this kind of pattern, and I can bend the steel to my will, and have it come out as a usable tool. Then yeah, sure. But as like making knives goes, unless you're buying the knife purely for the aesthetic, it's really not that important. I actually prefer hamons. I prefer clay tempered blades because you're not. It doesn't take half as much time to do a hamon on a blade that it does to make a Damascus blade. Even a simple random pattern Damascus can take like hours and hours and hours just to forge, where a monosteel blade would take a fifth or a tenth of the time, depending on the pattern, or even less. And at the end of the day, if you're doing all your welds right and you're getting everything sorted properly, then you're getting a monosteel blade. You're getting exactly the same. Yeah. So yeah, Japanese styles also cool. I mean, most Japanese styles tend to be sanai and like low layer patterns and stuff like that. And the reason for that is because they're more interested in the practical. The only reason that the katana, the wakizashi, were pattern welded was because they needed to remove the impurities, as I'm sure you know. So everyone knows that now because it's been so widely popularized. But the big thing is that they were all about the practicality of it. And so therefore, if the monosteel will beat out the Damascus, they'll use monosteel. Now I can't say I don't want to make Damascus in the future, and I haven't made Damascus in the past because I have, and I will, because it is a great test of the smith's skill. It's something that's very difficult to pull off, but I don't think it's ever going to be the only thing that I do. There's a lot of knife makers out there who will not make monosteel blades anymore. Some of the highest ranked bladesmiths in the ABS, for instance, will not make monosteel blades anymore. Or if they do, it's very rare. And I think that's kind of sad because at the end of the day, you're sacrificing time and effort into making a knife which is only aesthetically pleasing. And for most people, it's so aesthetically pleasing that you're not going to use it. And I hate the idea of people not using my knives. Like I make tools. I make usable tools. And I want them to be used. I don't care how pretty they are. I want them to be used. And yes, there's always going to be that guy that spends $5,000 on a dagger or $5,000 on a Bowie knife or something like that, and he's going to use it. He's going to use that Damascus wolf tooth pattern Bowie knife by Jerry Fisk. But most people aren't. They're just going to lock it in a safe. They're going to take it out occasionally to show their friends. At best, they might put it in a glass display cabinet on the wall. But I just that makes me sad. I don't like the idea of these tools hung up to rest. Now I know for a fact that a couple of the blades I've made have ended up that way. I have gone to people who didn't have any intention of using them, and the only reason that I sold them to them is because I'm a capitalist at heart and I need money in order to keep my business running. So therefore I sell to them. But if I had my choice, if I had, multiple millions of dollars, then I wouldn't, because I like making users. I like making usable stuff. I like the idea of someone writing their history, like writing a section of their history with their knife. The knife that they got from me. I like the idea that they're going to use it and teach their children how to whittle or, hunt or whatever with the knife that I made, and then when they get old enough, pass it down to them, and so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, us craftsmen, we're creating heirlooms. We're creating yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the thing, is at the end of the day, a lot of these knives are so pretty that you don't want to use them. It's like a wedding cake that's so pretty you don't want to eat it. But that's not what they're there for. But then again, who am I to judge? I can't I can't judge people for their habits. Exactly, legacy tools. And that goes the same for hammers and stuff. How many knives have you made that don't want to give away? It'd be bad if I said all of them. No, that's not true. There's been a lot of knives that I haven't wanted to. There's been a fair few knives that I've just made to sell. Um, Especially my Scandinavian feasting knives. The first couple that I made, I was like, yeah, this is cool, but I never really got attached to them, and I'm still not attached to them. They are the epitome of tool. They are a tool. That's all. Um, it's weird. I mean, for the most part, I love all of the knives that I make. I try and only make stuff that I really like. Um, but at the same time, I make knives with the intention of selling them because I want to make this a job. I want to make this my business. I want to make this my living, and so therefore I have to make knives to sell. Um, that's probably one of the only knives that I've made that I really, really don't want to give away. That and my Hamon Hunter, which I made the year before. I make a habit of making myself one knife a year, and around my birthday normally, I call it my birthday knife. And the whole idea of my birthday knife is that I challenge myself to do something I haven't done before. I normally give myself a time limit, like 5 days, to complete it. But yeah, it's a challenge knife. It's a knife that I use to challenge myself, and those knives I will never sell because those knives are going to be the my history written in steel, if you like. It's going to be my journey as a craftsman written in pieces that I've created, so that you know 5, 10, 20 years from now, I can have a wall of knives that I created year by year, showing my kind of my journey, if you like, through the knife making universe. Just gonna 420p miles, 728p HD. Thank you. For some reason, my yeah, history written in steel. It's true. That is what we do as craftsmen, even as blacksmiths, as knife makers, as any kind of craftsman. You maybe not be working in steel. You might be working in wood. I know, for instance, that Iron and Wood works with wood because it's in the title. But the thing is, you're making a legacy. You're making your history. And I would highly suggest that you guys do that for yourselves. Even 1 week out of the year, take time to make something that challenges you, right? Whether that's a box that's got those ridiculous Japanese dovetails, that have got the million different friggin' facets to them and stuff like that, or it's making a hammer that's got welded faces to a wrought iron body, or even something really simple, like just doing some handle carving on one of your hammers. You make a hammer and then you do a bit of handle carving on it that you've never done before. That kind of stuff. Challenge yourself and then keep that. Because the thing is that challenge is proving to you how you can react to a challenge at that stage. And then as you move along in the years, you'll find that even the challenges, like stuff that you've never done before, you're doing it better because you're learning. And without challenging ourselves, we're never learning. If you stagnate, if you let yourself get to a point where you're comfortable and you just kind of sit there, then yeah, you don't get anywhere. And of course, the other advantage that I'll say is as makers, I would assume that a lot of us want to make a living out of this. If we could, we would, right? One of the big things is you want to have pieces that you can show people, right? You want to be able to go, this is what I do. You hand something to them. Because there's nothing worse than being a maker and going, yeah, I make stuff for a living. I don't have any because I've sold them all, but I am a maker. Trust me. And that's where I find myself a lot of the time, where I'm kind of like, yeah, I've got stuff. I've got stuff that I've sold. It's not here. So that's why I keep those birthday knives, is because then I can go, yes, I do make knives. These are the kinds of knives I make. Because the rest of them I get sold. So yeah, it's a great advantage to have that, in your arsenal as well, is to be able to show what you're actually doing. But yeah, having that challenge, having that, kind of advantage of pushing yourself, learning, trying new things. Yeah, I keep photos too, but I mean, the big thing about photos is that they really don't tell the whole story, especially in knife making, right? If you've seen knives on the internet, on Instagram, on YouTube, whatever, there are things that you will not pick up looking at it on a screen. Being able to hold it, being able to actually look at it, is so much more worth it. And that comes from a couple of different things. It comes from a positive light in that, like, you can see how the maker has made it balanced properly. Like, I spend hours trying to get the balance on my blades properly. And you'll find that the grip's so comfortable. I mean, it looked comfortable, but when you feel it, you're like, oh yeah, that's made for my hand. Nice. Um, but there's also the negative. The big thing is that photos can be taken in such a way that you can cover up pretty much anything. And I have been guilty of that in the past, where I've taken the nicest photo of my work. Now, the thing is, you always want to. All right, Iron and Wood, cheers, man. Thanks for dropping in. Thanks for all the comments. But yeah, the photos can be taken in such a light that you tend to cover up a lot of mistakes, and the problem is that means that you can get oversold something. People will charge through the nose for an item that you've seen on their phone or online that doesn't show you everything about the quality of the work that they're doing. It shows you some of the quality of the work that they're doing, but it doesn't show you everything. And there are some things that you really can't pick up looking at a photo. Oh, so exciting. I'm getting there. I'm almost there. I'm almost there on the 180 grid. I'm full of very good points, like the one right in front of me. Yeah, the one with knives that I notice the most is guard fitter. No, I'm not going for a full mirror. This is going to be a 400 grit satin. So I've got to do this 180, and then I'll do 240, and then 400. Fortunately, after the 180, the 240 is a lot easier. Yeah, I'm more of a satin fan myself. So after after the 180, it becomes a lot easier to get the scratches out, because right now I'm trying to remove the machine scratches from the grinder. So yeah, this is one of my favorite parts, is when it stops being a grinder finish and starts being a hand sanded finish. Yeah, I mean, mirror finishes can be nice, and I've seen some awesome mirror finishes on some blades. Riccardo Mainolfi makes some awesome mirror finished hunters. But yeah, they scratch up way too easy, and they're really difficult to fix. Like one of the big things as a knife maker is I'm thinking years ahead. I'm thinking years down the track, what is this going to look like? Now, it's carbon steel, so if it's used for cutting meat and stuff like that, it's going to patina. It's going to turn black. If it's a mirror finish, it's still going to patina. carbon steel's patina. It's what happens. If it's a stainless, it's not going to patina, so that's not a worry. Now I work primarily in carbon steels. I don't like stainlesses. That's just my personal taste. I prefer this. We're talking about history in steel. I'm talking the history written on the steel. I love the idea of the story of the knife, the story of the blade being told in the marks left on it by its life, its journey. I'm very philosophical when it comes to my bladesmithing. Yeah, but the big thing is that stainless would be the only steel that I would mirror finish anyway, because high carbon steel is going to patina. So immediately, if you've got a mirror finish on your high carbon steel, I'm like, why? Why bother? Secondly, you've then got the argument of, okay, this high carbon steel is going to patina. What if I want to make it shiny again? If you've got a mirror finish, you're going to have to go down to a grit, way down to a grit, 400, 240, and then you have to bring it all the way back up to that mirror finish if you want to bring it back to the finish it was already at. Whereas with a 400 grit, I go straight to my 400, I do, straight line strokes, done. It's back to its finish, or back to its original finish. And the same goes for if it gets scratched. That stainless steel, and stainless steel is such an ass for freaking hand sand. I swear to God, if I don't ever have to hand sand a stainless blade again, I'll be so happy. I probably will. I'll probably end up making some stainless blades in the future. But, stainless is a massive pain to hand sand. If you scratch that through a mirror finish and then try and take it back, yeah, it is. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to forge. But yeah, if you scratch that mirror finish on that stainless blade, you're going to have to go back down to whatever grit that scratch was at. So, if you hit it on some steel or something like that, it might be a equivalent millibuck. I'm not skateboarding, dude. And I don't know how to skateboard, unfortunately. Sorry. But yeah, mirror finish is just ridiculous. No, give me satin any day. The only time that I won't do just a standard 400 grit or 600 grit satin, yeah, you and me both, man. You and me both. The only time I won't do a 400 or 600 grit satin is if I'm doing a Hamon, in which case I'll do something like a 2000 grit satin, which really looks almost like a mirror. But that way I can etch that Hamon, get that really nice contrast and stuff like that, and you don't get those contrasts in the satin finishes, unfortunately. So that's the only time I'll go for a really high grit finish. That was probably the most random comment I've got. I've got some pretty random comments, but that was pretty random. I can only hope that he just dropped into the wrong. What was the hardest technique to personally master in my craft? Well, I'm nowhere near a master. That question predicates that I mastered anything in my craft. I haven't mastered anything yet. If I'm going off the feedback that I've got from a few of the knife makers that I spoke to, then guard fit up is something that I definitely need to work on. like proper guard fit up, right? So not having any gaps, having an almost seamless fit between the guard and the blade is something that is incredibly difficult to do accurately. And I am really slack, and I tend to cut corners and skip things, and that leads to tiny little gaps. Um, like gaps that I couldn't even show you in a photograph, but you can see them in person. And it shits me so hard. So that would kind of be one of the biggest issues. My handles in general, I tend to focus less on than the blades. I'm all about the blade, which is something that Sean McIntyre, as a mastersmith of the ABS, actually told me I need to fix. I need to bring my focus back to the handles a little bit more than the blades to try and even the whole thing out. Because the blades look awesome, but then the handles don't. And then it's kind of, you can see the contrast between the two, and it doesn't look good. So I need to spend a bit more time on my handles, a little bit more care. As far as hardest technique, like the guard fit up's purely a time thing. It's purely I'm a lazy wanker problem. I think the hardest technique to master. Yeah, fit and finish is the biggest thing. It trumps everything else. If your blade is awesome, your geometry is great, but your fit and finish is crap, you're just not a high-end knife maker. You're a knife maker that makes decent blades. The hardest technique, forge welding, probably, because I have not mastered it yet. Yeah, it's a really good question. I love that question. That's great. I think that I would have to say the hardest thing that I've had to master is forge welding, and I'm nowhere near good, even good at forge welding. I've only done Damascus a couple of times, so I'm not really practiced at that kind of thing. But the other thing, of course, is that it's a really difficult thing to pull off properly with high carbon steels. Trying to. Yeah. Yeah, so the forge welding would definitely be the bane of my existence as far as my craft is concerned. Mild hammer with welded faces. Ooh, good luck with that. Have fun. Just remember, the mild needs to get a shitload hotter than the high carbon steel. That's a pretty big project to start off with. My hat's off to you, man. Are you using coal or gas? Because that's one of the things that I'm having a problem with, is that I use charcoal for all of my forge welding, because my gas forge won't get up to... I haven't got a gas forge that gets up to welding temperatures. Right. Yeah, well, I mean, with a good gas forge that's getting up to welding temps, you shouldn't have too much of an issue. There's a lot of guys in the bladesmithing community that are now doing dry welding, fluxless welding, high carbon steels. So with good gas forges, so it's definitely doable. I need to build myself a new forge, unfortunately, because the forge I've got is great for making hammers and stuff. It's great for getting up to forging temperatures, but when yours melts steel, Jesus. I want your forge. Can we trade? You can have mine. I'll have yours. Deal? Deal. Okay, cool. Right. Fair enough. Yeah, my charcoal forge melts steel, but wow, that's pretty impressive. Is it blown gas? So, have you got a blower? Forced air, yeah, you're using forced air. Yeah, I'm using Venturi, so. I know that it's capable, it's just the forge body is not right. It's not. It's not. It really isn't. It's actually very efficient if you can get them tuned right. Pretty much everyone in Australia is using Venturi burners now, and a lot of them are, professional bladesmiths like Bruce Barnett and all those kind of guys. They're all using the same Venturi burners that I am. Actually, the same Venturi burners that Alex Steele is using. I'm actually got exactly the same burners as Alec. Be back in 2 seconds. Most people are switching to Venturi because it's a lot more efficient and it doesn't require power to run. Yeah, a lot of it I've found comes down to the forge build. Flint Sharp Knives, who I was talking about earlier, he runs a single Venturi burner in his forge, and he gets up to welding temperatures no problem at 2 psi with Venturi. So it all comes down to the way the forge is built, and mine is just not built optimally. For that kind of thing. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, I haven't heard of anyone running a forge off a barbecue regulator, so it must be effective. Must be. That's cool, man. Have you got videos on your channel? I haven't checked yet. Hey, Anthony. Practice, Kenneth. Lots and lots of practice. Yeah, cool, man. I'll have to check you out. I'm sorry, I've had no time for. I've had no time for checking out my YouTube videos recently, so I will definitely get onto that. Yeah. So okay. Well, that's really cool. I haven't really looked into forced air. I'm terrible at fabrication, so I know a lot of forced air requires you to fabricate your own stuff, which I am absolutely shocking at, and have had no practice at. So therefore, no fab needed. Have you got a tutorial on how you built yours, or how you got yours? cool. I'll definitely check that out, because that's something that could be very useful when I build my new forge. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, guys, if you've just joined the stream. Thanks for coming in. We were just discussing different burners and the advantages and disadvantages thereof. So it sounds like forced air is definitely the way to go. So, yeah. So where are you set up? What, the forge? Where are you based? I'm imagining it's here in Oz. Yeah, cool. Tampa Bay. Right. Fair enough. So not in here in Oz then. Okay. Cool. Well, we can't all be awesome, unfortunately. Sorry. Some of us have to be Floridians. Yeah, well, I mean, with the barbecue regulator, you can't really run a Venturi system off a barbecue regulator effectively unless you're building a forge like Flint Sharps. Jesus, that was sucked. But yeah, it's definitely a way to go if you've got blowers. I was actually looking at what was his name? I have a friend who just made the ribbon burner. Well, friend. He's also the runner of Five Pants Fabrication, Jake Mantell. Cool. Yeah, I use a hairdryer to run my charcoal forge, actually, funnily enough. I was actually looking at, oh Christ, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Niels Provost. He recently repaired his forge, relined it, and he uses a forced air. Kind of piqued my interest. Yeah, they really do make good cheap blowers. Yeah. The one advantage of my two forges is they're both brick forges, so relining them is really, really easy. Just pull the bricks out, put new bricks in. Oh, nice. That's cool, Anthony. Wish I had a fly press. You don't want to send yours to me, do you? Just kidding. Just kidding. It's fine. You can keep it for now. God, fly press. I would kill for a fly press. Yeah, it doesn't really need to be lined. No worries, mate. €25, 25 on eBay. Really? You suck. The only fly press I found locally was like $5,000. And I don't even want to talk about interstate because, you know, like the shipping prices would be ridiculous. Almost down to a complete 180. And I will cry when I'm done. Not really, but close. £25 on eBay, that's... Oh. It's kind of like when Alex Steele's like, yeah, here's my first power hammer, I spent £2,000 on it. I was like, you suck. 4-ton, yeah, but your 4-ton fly press here would go for about $2,000. This is Australia. If I found a fly press for under $1,000, I'd jump on it so friggin' hard. Probably break the damn thing. Oh, like a nice crisp ridge. There's nothing like it. Yeah, no, fly presses aren't cheap. Nothing's cheap here in Australia. I was looking at power hammers. Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. But getting a decent fly press here in Australia is pretty rough. There's only 2 in the state that I know of. There's probably a lot more, but there are only 2 that I know of, and I know how to find them. But they both belong to guilds, and they're not going to give them up. One's a 30-ton, so, you know. It's insanely huge. Yeah. Hey, Carol, how's it going, man? Yep, more basilard. Got to get this bastard done. Would you believe it? I'm still working on the foundation. I'm still working on the 180 grit. It's driving me absolutely insane. But this is the life of a knife maker. It's hand sanding, more hand sanding, grinding. Yeah, I've shopped around a bit, Anthony. Unfortunately, here in Australia, most of those kinds of forging tools are at a very high premium. The cheapest power hammer, for instance, was a tiny little power hammer. It was like 100 kilo. 100 kilo power hammer. Tiny thing. That was $1,500. I just don't have that money. And that was the cheapest one I found. There are a couple of 1-ton, 2-ton power hammers that were going for shitloads. Been looking at hydraulic presses because they're pretty much the next best option, but most of the hydraulic presses that are forging presses are, yeah, quite expensive. Around the $2,500 to $3,000 mark. Yeah, yeah, I do. Well, I do have people who come over and swing a sledge for me occasionally, Carl, if you've noticed in my videos, obviously. Yep. Yeah, I'll keep looking, Anthony. Don't worry. It's definitely on my list. Then I just gotta find a place to put it. Yeah, I do have people who come over and swing a hammer for me, and one of them calls himself my apprentice. And I don't feed him anything, and I beat him as little as I can. Occasionally it's necessary. Um, but yeah, I just... Strikers can do a lot, but they run out of energy. And they also end up getting jobs and stuff. How inconsiderate of them. So then I'm forced to do things by myself, and when I'm forced to do things by myself, I no longer have the ability to use a striker. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking at. What forge? Unfortunately, the air-powered, the hydro-pneumatic jacks in Australia tend to be very expensive. Jesus, Anthony, what the hell are you doing here? Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming and checking it out, man. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again. You mean morning? You mean morning, Alan? Working on making dies for it now. Slower on the down return. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Is that the hydropneumatic jacks tend to be a little bit slow. I actually ran into an old bloke the other day that does all of his forge welding under a manual 4-ton jack press. I was blown away. He does all of his welding. Yeah, turning the crank. Yeah, I mean, here in Australia, it's just, yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of access to that kind of stuff. Like, we don't have Harbour Freight here, so, yeah, it's a little rough for us Aussies. So as much as you wish you were an Aussie, there are some downsides. Yeah, cool. There is a company that makes air over hydraulic presses called Heron Forbes, and they make a air over hydraulic press, 40-ton press for $750, which is something I've been looking at, but it's fairly slow on the die drop. But as a stopgap measure, if I can get the cash together, I'll definitely do that because it's going to give me a great advantage when it comes to welding. And press fitting guards too. Yeah, hammer punching is another thing that I want a hydraulic press for, but I'm a bit worried with the speed that I'm actually going to end up damaging tooling a little too quickly. Because you've got so long of a contact to with the steel. Yeah, I get that. You don't find that the dies draw heat too quickly? On the large stock resizing? Because from what I've seen, like especially if you're crushing stuff, the dies just tend to suck the heat out really fast. So the stock doesn't move very quick. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, as I said, most of the slow ones I've seen, when it comes to stock moving, they suck the heat out so quickly that you don't get a lot of stock moved before that cools down beyond the point of moving. Well, yeah, I mean, anything's trying to do it better than doing it by hand. My concern is because I'm now working full time as a bladesmith, funds are incredibly limited. So therefore, I have to kind of be careful how I spend my money. And I don't want to spend $750 on a press that isn't going to actually improve things too much. Fortunately, I already have the compressor that I can hook it up to, so... That I don't have to spend money on. Thanks to everyone joining. Good to have you along. Make sure you hit that like button. Definitely gets the word out there. Profile, let's take a little bit. Yeah, no, I will, I'll be watching. I'm pretty sure I've come across your videos before. I just, I can't remember, because what I do a lot of the time when I'm in the workshop and stuff like that, when I'm doing this kind of thing, when I'm not streaming, is I'll have my TV set up, which is behind the camera, TV set up with the YouTube just playing auto. Yeah. Motivation is a killer, man. I know exactly what we're talking about. I was, to be honest, by the time that I was about to head out to Sydney Night Show, I was ready to chuck it in. I was ready to just give up. Getting out there and seeing all of the different makers out there and realizing that, there is a big community out there and realizing that I do have something that I can contribute to this community was just amazing, and I am fired up to get back into it. So I can't recommend more. Just looking out there, getting in touch with other makers. Gotta believe in yourself. To get all philosophical again. Doing the stuff we love. And kicking ass while we're doing it. The other thing I realized a while ago, going through my depression and anxiety, was that there is nothing wrong with needing validation. You know, there is nothing wrong with needing people to admire your work, admire you. There is nothing wrong in searching for that. For a while there, I always thought that it was kind of self-serving to like go out looking for accolade. But at the end of the day, everyone does it to a certain extent, and it's somewhat necessary to our mental stability to have some form of validation from other people. It's a hard pill to swallow for guys who like to be fairly, independent. Yeah, YouTube's a good outlet, man. All right, man. Well, congratulations to your wife on her raise from me over in the good old Australia. And she'll hopefully see you in the comment sections of my next videos. And I will be commenting on your videos as well. You too, man. Take care. Alright, so that's the 180 grit foundation done on this basilard. Just wipe off all the excess dirt. So now there are no longer grinder scratches on my blade, which means that the next step is to go finer in the grits. Just checking out, making sure that I have indeed actually gotten rid of all of the grinder scratches, because if you leave any in at this stage, they won't come out in the next grit. That's kind of the worry. But anyway, thank you everyone for checking in. If you haven't liked this stream, or do please, because it helps out. It gives the algorithm something to latch onto and sends people my way. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, do that too. I upload videos weekly every Wednesday. There will be a video coming out on fitting the handle and final handstanding of this very soon. This basilard, which I hand engraved myself with gravers that I made in a video previously with a chisel hammer that I made previously in one of my videos as well. Also, if you have any suggestions, comments, stuff like that, even after this stream is done, you can leave them in the comment section down below, and I will respond to every comment. So if you have any questions or any suggestions, please leave it. Please leave it down below. Jeweler's lip, yeah. Jeweler's lip can help, but most of the time it's just light. The big thing with hand sanding is that the scratches are incredibly obvious. You just need to get the light to reflect off them properly, which is why I'm pointing it at the light behind the camera, is so that I get a reflection. And the thing is, because I was sanding in this direction and the grinder scratches are going this direction, it's very easy to see where they are because they run like almost directly opposite to the scratch lines that I'm putting in to the blade. So the next thing I'll do is take my 240 grit, which is the next grit up, and I'll start going in a, because I was doing 30 degrees this way, now I'll start doing 30 degrees the opposite way, and again, I'll have that kind of crossing grain feature, which means that all I have to do is keep going until I can't see any grit scratches going in this direction, and instead see them all going in this direction. So, and then once I get past the 240, I'll go to the 400, and I'll go straight down the blade, and then I'll start doing single strokes all the way down the length of the blade to get a nice, even, consistent finish right along the length. I might not do that until after I've fitted the handle up though, so I'll leave it at the 240 grit until I've finalized all the handle fittings. Then I'll do the final hand sanding and then the glue up and the painting. So that'll be for next week's video probably, while I continue to work on this. But anyway, I'm going to close the stream off now. Thank you for joining in. If you do have any comments, please leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I shall see you probably next week if I don't do a live stream later on this week. Cheers, guys.